Hi, I'm Mitch from Hard Intentions YouTube channel. And as you may know, we also have hardintentions.com, which is our website where we sell t-shirts. We have a new Viking t-shirt out you might like. We got some hats and some other cool stuff. So if you get a chance, please check us out over there. I kind of finished my story about, growing up, getting in trouble, going to jail, prison, getting released and parole on my last video. I kind of brought it up to where I'm at now. And it was quite a journey telling those videos. And a lot of people seem to like them, so I'm very glad you guys like them. And I want to thank you for watching. But, I always think about things from prison, man, that are relevant to me and things I went through in there and how the effect it had on me, good, bad, and otherwise. And but my wife said, you did 38 years, babe. There's always stories to tell. So I was just thinking the other day about how time goes by and how you measure time and the different events that you go through. People out here would say, oh, I remember when I went to the races, or I remember when I watched that football game, or I remember when so and so had a baby, or, events for us were different. And we measured time by the events, and I could look back and think how old I was roughly, and at the time something happened. It's quite an experience. Like I remember when I first got arrested, I was sitting in a juvenile tank in a county jail, thinking, man, I'm through, because this crime happened in front of 10 eyewitnesses, and even though I didn't do it, I was involved in a fight that led up to the actual stabbing. So I thought, man, I'm done. I was sitting in the tank. And I remember puking, like super anxiety, and just thinking, man, this is it. Yeah, I remember that. That's when the journey first started. And I remember different events in the jail. Like there was a guy downstairs from me. He was in another tank on the third floor, and he was he was in the club, and he was so he was a tank captain in that tank that he was in. And I heard that I remember stories about he would hear guys talking smack about each other, and he would and he'd call them up on, I think it was Wednesday nights. They had Wednesday night fights, and he'd say, I heard you talking shit about this guy, blah blah blah, so get him up, and he'd make them fight. And I remember that. That's when I was in the county jail. I'll never forget them stories about that, and so I imagine the gossip in that tank got real low, real fast. If you're going to talk shit about someone and they're going to be, you're going to have to fight them later on, you tend to watch your words. And yeah. Yeah, I remember going to Chino January of '80, and everyone prepared me for it. Uh, I get there, and you're not allowed to keep anything. All your clothes, everything are going. So I just got prepared mentally, to give up everything. That's like when you get to R&R and Chino, they take all your clothes, books, letters, everything you've got, and they put them in a trash can. And that's the last you see of that. And it's almost, I remember thinking, later on, that's like closing that door to the outside world. That's the final, you're in prison. This is where you are now. Everything from that world, from here back, is gone. Uh, they threw it in the trash and took it. And you're not allowed to mail it home. You're just supposed to know that you're not supposed to take nothing to prison from that county jail. And everything's kind of matter of fact. I remember that thinking, this is it. the party's on now. Streets are over, I remember that. Yeah, it was January of '80. And I remember seeing first violence, real serious violence. I told that story in one of my videos about that guy that got stabbed in the neck. Um, yeah, in the back. He died before he hit the ground. I remember that, I was 19 years old. That was around '81. First murder I ever seen in prison. Yeah, I mean, I actually seen, and yeah, it was quite a deal. And I remember going up to the hole there in San Quentin. When I got there, I got in the cell, nothing in the cell, but a mattress and a San Quentin newspaper. I remember that, and I looked at that newspaper and they were like, shots fired on this yard, shots fired over here, stabbing there, and then you opened up the big story there was a murder where a guy got stabbed and beat, with a hammer and a screwdriver, and he was dead, he got killed. And so the San Quentin newspaper now, I don't know what it is, but back then they used to print every stabbing, every fight, every time they fired a shot, stuff like that. Then they would have other articles too, guys trying to be journalists in prison, but they always covered all the violence at San Quentin because that's what was going on at San Quentin. So it's reading that paper, I thought, man, what kind of place am I in? Because I don't care how tough you are, when you find yourself in a place where guys are getting stabbed and murdered and they're printing it right there in the paper, it's not a story anymore. I remember thinking, it's getting real. It's not a story anymore. It's not a war story, And yeah, May of '81. And then of course I remember hitting the yard and seeing guys get shot for the first time. It was a fight. In San Quentin, they were lucky because they used shotguns with the 7.5 grain bird shot. I remember, guys are drinking, talking smack on the tier, and then going out the yard, and these guys stepped out, and then started slinging. I'm like, oh, fight, and then boom, 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 there they are, getting shot. It was that was quite an experience. And I remember that. That was '81 too. But all the horror stories from from the hole, they stick with you forever. I remember where I was when those things happened. But when I got out of the hole, I really kind of tripped out because the main line was a whole different environment. Guys have jobs, guys are trying to hustle food, guys are, going to hobby, guys are getting visits, family visits, lifting weights. I mean, it's just a whole different environment, it's kind of like going from prison to the streets, I guess. You figure out how to get your laundry. And so I remember going out to the security housing decompression unit there in Placerville with a couple other guys. One of who is out living in another state I communicate with. And he was in a club and all that stuff. And I thought, all right, this guy's doing his program. It's all good. I'm going to do it. So, I just remember it was in 1984, I got involved in milling cabinet. And I told somebody, hey, I'm going to take that milling cabinet for the board. These are older cats, and he said, you don't take that program for the board, you take that program for you. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I got to have a trade for the board. And he says, yeah, that's all well and fine, but if you're going to take a trade, you don't do it for the board, you do it for yourself. I never, failed me. It never left me. Taking a vocation it's a pretty lengthy process, and it takes a lot of time, And then when I got into milling cabinet, I realized I really liked to work with wood, you know. I enjoyed it. So I ended up taking it for me. You know, I got in some trouble out there and had to finish it at another prison. But, and I remember, you know, my friend Mickey from Cocoa County, he's like, hey man, I need to take a trade, you know, this and that. And I was on him like, hey, you got to get a trade. You know, and he hadn't been out of the hole long either. And, you know, for some pretty serious stuff. But I got him in that milling cabinet, you know. And I remember we're out there in that milling cabinet shop. And, excuse me, I got to get the king here. Yeah. King Chewy. So I got Mick out there in cabinet shop. He liked working with wood, and, you know, he's out doing it right now, as a matter of fact. Just got out. He did 45 years. So, you know, we'd do all, it's a big shop, you know, and at the end of the day, we'd put our state jackets on and goggles, and we get nail guns, and, you know, we'd have nail gun fights with each other. And this guy went and told the boss, you know, hey, these guys are out here shooting nail guns at each other or whatever. And, yeah, so I remember, you know, them guys went and told Mickey, walked up to the guy that he thought told on us for having a nail gun fight, and he had a nail gun, and he went, pop, 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 you know, and he shot him like this far away from us. He goes, you fucking rat. You know, it was kind of fun. He had to be there to see it. And then Mickey, you know, I had a fridge in the shop, and them guys would put their lunch in the fridge every day, and Mickey go, fuck that dude, you know, and go take his lunch and eat it, which is kind of funny. Then they built this wooden box, you know, with a lock on it, and they put their lunch in there. And yeah, it was quite a deal. It was a hard place to be in a shop with them kind of dudes, but it was fun having Mick in there and woodworking together. It was fun. It was a fun time, you know. That was '86, and you know, when I started doing woodwork, I also started hobbying with wood in the wood shop, and you know, making jewelry box and clocks and toys and all that stuff, and experimenting with different exotic woods. You had to order your own wood, so I learned responsibility, you know, because if you buy $200-300 worth of wood and you make stuff and it doesn't sell in the store out front, you're out $200-300, right? So it teaches you kind of be responsible with money, and it gives you such a sense of pride and ownership, because I also bought tools. I had my own router, my own sander, my own spray gun, you know, lacquer, thinner, all that stuff, you know, in the locker. And it was cool, man. It gave me a sense of self-worth, ownership, accomplishment, all that, man. And I did pretty good financially. I mean, I didn't have to ask anyone on the streets for anything. I did that from '84 to '88 when I left there, and I also hobbied in other prisons. But you know, I used to get Fine Woodworking magazine, and I'd look at all the different projects, and I'd read about different people that were doing woodworking for a living, how they had their own businesses, and how they, you know, marketed their shit and everything. And so living in that moment and that time, and that's before they shut the door and said, hey, you guys ain't never getting out. My, you know, fantasy, or my projected reality for the future was I was going to get out and be a woodworker. And I had a, you know, I'm going to get a house, I'm going to have a shop, I'm going to maybe in the woods somewhere, and I'm going to do woodwork. That was my deal. I like making boxes. They're fun. You can use burl and crotchwood and all this fancy woods, and you know, that was my thing for quite a long time, actually. And then, you know, I used to tattoo and draw and paint back then a little bit. I didn't really paint, but I did a lot of drawing. But, yeah, you know, then the whole, you know, you're not getting out thing. Then you go to prisons where there's no hobby, and that this kind of fades, you know. You don't get to experiment with tools and wood, and you know, you get out of the moment. I still enjoy woodworking. I don't have a place to do it, so I can't have a woodworking business. But that was my projected reality at the time. I'm going to get out and be a woodworker, and have my own business doing wood, you know. And so that was I remember that moment in time, you know, because of what I was doing and what I was thinking and planning and all that, you know. And you know, I remember going to New Folsom from there, and there was nothing. There was no hobby. There was no jobs. So I just lifted weights, you know. I got yard the morning one day, the afternoon the next, and hopefully nobody got stabbed or murdered, so we could get our yard, you know. And I remember thinking, hey, you know, they got a lot of control now with these new prisons. Party's over. I remember that from New Folsom. That was the moment, you know, moment in time where I realized, you know, that the party was over. Of course, I went to Tracy from there, and the party was still on. Tracy was an old school prison, and now they're closing Tracy, which is maybe I should do a video just talking about Tracy, because Tracy has quite a history, you know. Yeah, but I went to Tracy. I was able to woodwork in the PIA industry, and I was able to woodwork in a hobby. Had a lot of family visits. I remember that. Tracy was cool. I had some troubles there. You know, I got in a few altercations. But overall, Tracy was a really good place to be. They had great food. You know, one time this ice cream company had a diesel truck full of ice cream. It's called Move and Pick Ice Cream, like high-end ice cream. And the truck broke down on the freeway. And I remember that food manager went out and bought all the ice cream on the truck and brought it in. We got fat scoops of ice cream. I remember that. That was at Tracy, you know. We got fed good there. And, I mean, if you messed up, you know, you messed up. But, I mean, yeah, overall, Tracy was a good place to be, you know. Yeah. And that was from like 89 to 93, somewhere on there. It was fun. It was good. The last year I was there, they closed the swimming pool. I used to go in that swimming pool like every summer it was open. I'd be in there, you know. I'd ditch work, go to the pool, whatever it took, you know. I'd skip out somehow, get out of my building so I could slide out to night yard and get in that swimming pool. It was good stuff, man. I liked it, you know. I also remember they had big time softball league there. They had like 25 teams. And they'd play softball all season, you know, then have playoffs and a series, and it was fun. It was a good place to be, man. An excellent weight pile. You know, I remember going out the yard, man, at driving iron with Big Fred and Russ. And Big Fred's passed away now. You know, or rest in peace. But you know, he would drive me, man. I remember driving iron, and I was stuck at 420, and Fred would just be like, man, you got to do more than that. You got to get some more reps on that, or you're going to be stuck at 420 pounds the rest of your life. I was like, fuck. Fred was a big dude, man. He was taller than me. He had to be at least 6'6", and just big, thick dude, you know. And I thought, man, this guy's a hog, you know. But he used to really push me on that weight pile, you know. It was quite a deal. But you know, up until then, it was just all about partying, lifting weights, hobbying, you know, thinking I could sham my way out through the board. You know, and then they came out with Pete Wilson, and guys started losing their dates. Guys started getting turned away at the board. Guys started getting turned away in R&R on the way out the door. They say, hey, you know, the governor took your date. That's when reality started sitting in too at Tracy.